Okay, so right now, if you want to call him with a question, hold on for a little bit. We're going to do this great interview now. I mean, this is Masi Mutafa. Great name. And he's with Words, Beats, and Lives. Could you give his a website, Eric, and show that on the screen? I just ran into that. I mean, I knew of his work because I run into it all the time living in Washington, D.C. But the first time I really read your website and got into it, and he does terrific work, guys. I mean, anybody, if you're looking to do something in your neighborhood, you want to change the life of yourself or the people around you or whatever, you have an idea, you have a dream that you always wanted to do, and not sure how to do it or whatever. Mossy did this. I mean, he did this right from college. I mean, like 12 years ago, you were still in college. Yeah. Mossy was in college, and you did a hip-hop conference. Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that how it all started in college, as a hip-hop conference?
I mean, it actually started my freshman year. One of the things I often encourage people to do is to not just have a dream, but find people who share that dream. And so my freshman year, I met the former president of the Black Student Union. And one of the things he told me was that the only thing he wished he had done as BSU president was to create a world-class hip-hop conference. So 3 years later, when I became the president of the Black Student Union, I decided to do the one thing my mentor said he hadn't done. And one of the things about that fact is that it wasn't my original idea, but I took someone else's aspiration and advanced it and found other people that agreed enough with it as a vision to work towards it.
Well, it's funny. The guys last week were sort of like that, too. We said nonprofits. I don't know if you saw the show, but they're saying it seemed like getting together with somebody else who could share that vision. And so how did this, I mean, now you have out of a reading, so he started in his dorm room, I guess, as a president of the group on campus, and now he's got like 22 interns, 55 volunteers, and here's another thing, 170 monthly givers. Man, somebody giving him money, and he's got a donors list that will knock your socks off if you go on the website. And I wonder how he did all this. But first, what do you guys do? What are you guys doing for people?
So we're a hip-hop nonprofit. We talk about teaching, convening, and presenting hip-hop. So the teaching is running.
Now, presenting, see, I don't know much about hip-hop. So when you say teaching and presenting hip-hop, I mean, is that like a religion? Is that like a philosophy?
So when we talk about teaching, that's running after-school programs. So we teach literally the core elements of hip-hop, from engineering to DJing to graffiti to breakdancing to MCing to young people ages 5 to 23 in 3 different communities here in the District of Columbia.
So they're like skills. I mean,
exactly.
They're arts, they're broadcasting.
We talk specifically about skill set mastery, employability, and the pursuit of a post-secondary education. And that's part of our bias, having come out of a college environment. We want to encourage young people to go to college, because for me, part of why starting a hip-hop based organization made sense for me as an individual is hip-hop is the reason I went to college.
Why?
I'd actually been accepted to the University of Maryland after I graduated from Largo High School, right here in Prince George's County.
I mean, you want to get a hip-hop degree? Or
what? No. I got accepted to college, but I didn't want to go to college because I actually didn't really enjoy high school. So I thought that college was like high school, except you live there.
Yeah, right.
But then I got invited to sit in on a class, African American Studies 202, Blacks in Popular Culture, where they were talking about a book called Black Noise by an author named Dr. Trisha Rose. And that was the first time in my entire life where I was sitting in a classroom and people were talking about things that actually mattered to me. Yeah. Not because I was so into rap music, but because I spent most of my summers as a child going to New York. And her book is really about the soundscape of hip hop, literally the sounds of cars and trains and people. And I remembered that from my childhood. So the idea of creating that kind of moment of change for a young person outside of a classroom was what we intended to do with creating Words, Beats, and Life. Is to say, like, the only reason why I went to college because I went and sat in on that class. I had my letter of admission. I was not going until I realized that what I could do in college was study things I was actually interested in. Yeah. And so for us, teaching the elements of hip hop is to not just say, well, you can get a job doing this, but to say you can get a degree studying the history of this. Most of our young people, their first time on a college campus is not as a student. They go with our teachers, because we still do workshops on college campuses. So they go as teaching assistants. So their first time on a college campus is actually as a teacher. Exactly.
So you got this 15-year-old as a teacher. Wow.
Exactly. And so how does that impact self-esteem? How does that impact aspiration?
Absolutely.
So there are young people that we worked with who come from neighborhoods that have daunting statistics, who when we first met them, were aspiring to live up to those statistics, who are today in college.
Wow.
And that's amazing. Like one of the things we do now is we count the number of kids who we worked with who are now graduating from college, because we've been doing this for 11 years as of January. And we've worked with hundreds of kids. We have 250 young people enrolled in our program today. But teaching it, that's the foundation of what we do. Teaching the core elements of hip hop to promote skill set mastery, employability in the pursuit of a post-secondary education. Convening, we bring organizations like us, artists, activists, and scholars together, actually right across the street at Howard University, for an event called Remixing the Art of Social Change, a hip hop approach, where we ask people who agree enough about hip hop and community transformation to say, well, how can we do this work even better? How can I learn from what you do to improve what I do? And then the last thing is presenting. So that's concerts, that's murals,
music,
that's all
music. That. Well, as you say that, I mean, it seems to me, I mean, I was probably like you. I mean, I don't know what I was going to learn in college. I just wanted to get out and do stuff in life, you know, and I wasn't a good student at the time. But when you talk about hip hop, I think of my own stuff, because what I was good at school was acting crazy, you know. I'd get into class and you get me to the chalkboard and I could get everybody laughing behind me. You know? But I was a pain in the ass, you know. I mean, I thought my middle name was Sit Down. Sit down, Lesko. But so it's like this, something that a young person is into, you're able to develop that, not only a career, but an interest to how you can develop your mind, develop your heart, develop, you know, your community. Right. And with an interest.
And I can totally relate to your school experience. I mean, they actually created detention at my elementary school for me. Because I was getting suspended so much, they said, we can't suspend you anymore. You're actually just going to have to be in detention. And so that's part of what, you know, growing up made me not excited about schools. Exactly. Like, this is a place where my creativity, where my intellect is stifled. So the idea that that's happening for a ton of young people, how can we change that?
Right.
And one of the answers for some people is to change the schools. And I'm not that person, because that's a huge fight. But what we can do is create alternative learning environments. So the radio can be an alternative learning environment. A recreation center, a church, a library is a traditional learning environment, but we're teaching the arts at the Martin Luther King Library right downtown. So it's about creating partnerships that make sense. And one of the things that I actually really enjoyed about your last guest was this idea of being on the other side of looking for money. Because I think that you're talking to me about chasing a dream, but I think one of the things that was instrumental for me was actually being invited to sit on a grant review panel to see what it is that people, how the Kennedy Center explained what they were going to do with the money, with their, you know, with their extensive development.
So you were
department.
reading application from the Kennedy Center?
Yeah, because I got a chance to sit on a grant review panel for the DC Commission on the Arts and Humanities, and most city or statewide humanities councils have opportunities for people from the public to come and sit and review grants.
Oh, that's terrific. So if you're in the arts, then get your name in there, so maybe be chosen to do this.
And in DC, it's not just the arts. Even youth development organizations, they do calls for people to come in and review the grants. I see.
Well, God, I mean, it is. Did you have a nonprofit in mind when you were in college yet, or you just had no idea where the hell you're going to go with this?
I had no idea where I was going.
I mean, let's show people a little bit what you're doing.
Sure.
One project I like, I don't know, you probably know the thing, Exit the Gift Shop. You see that? One of my favorite movies. Did you see that? Yeah, and so you do a lot with hip hop drawing and all this. But the mural project. Why don't you run this video, Eric? On the murals, what they're doing, and this is, I see it all over town. It's wonderful stuff they do, and these are all kids doing this stuff.
Hi, my name is Dominic Painter. I also go by DJ True in the DC area, and I'm with Murals DC and working with Words Beats and Life this summer in 2012. Today, during the Murals DC bike tour, we were able to go around to the Shaw neighborhoods, Columbia Heights, and Adams Morgan predominantly to show people work that has been done by everybody that's been involved, a great deal of the artists that have been involved in the Murals DC project.
It's a piece we did in our inaugural year of back in 2008, along with probably DC's most well-known and respected muralist, Byron G. Peck, and his youth organization, City Art.
Well, we're back from Anacostia to Bike Space in Mount Vernon Square. Definitely showing how DC is changing. The murals tell the history of the city, so it's kind of like an open book. It's kind of like walking through the story and seeing it in art form. So it's really, really cool.
I mean, I think just sort of emerge from the wall. I really like to meet the artist because I can see that he really feels for DC.
What I liked about this one also is that I've seen different murals that we didn't see the first time around, and just riding my bike typically through DC, seeing more so than I have before. So that's also good.
It gets you to slow down and look at a different perspective of DC. Because you drive by and you see some color and that's it.
Right.
Stop and see, get the history behind it, the community, a feel for the community.
I liked how we broke it down into small groups, went out in different waves. So that was nice because we were all able to squeeze into small areas like in different alleyways, and so that was nice and small cultural feel. But yeah, definitely a good thing.
Yeah, and everybody out for discovering something new.
See, now Shane's grant should be good for this that he was talking about. I mean, that's just wonderful stuff. I mean, so does this come out of your group or your head, or you stealing again from everybody else?
Well, one of the great things about this video is the guy who starts off in that video doing the tour, Dominic Painter, he's actually the person that inspired me to create a nonprofit, because he actually came the second year of the hip hop conference we hosted at the University of Maryland and brought his organization, the Midnight Forum. And he said, yeah, I thought he was actually coming as a record studio. And he said, no, it's a hip hop nonprofit. And I said, what is a hip hop nonprofit? And then he started to tell me about the work. And so again, that was, I actually did borrow. And this program, Murals DC, is a public-private partnership. It's actually officially an initiative of the Department of Public Works that does graffiti removal. And the DC
but
Commission.
You're putting it on, huh?
but what they want to do is replace illegal graffiti with commissioned work. Yeah. But they partner with the DC Commission, and this specific video is an innovation that we added, which was to add a bicycle tour of the murals. And we partnered with a local bike shop. So that you've got two government entities, a nonprofit entity, and a local business all working together to build community around public art. And in this case, we actually did two tours and had 350 people come out.
350 people.
It was crazy. Like that was my first time on the first one we did was my first time on a bike tour. So we relied on the expertise of the shop. And now we're actually working to plan 6 tours this summer and looking to do multiple in the fall for the local colleges and universities. So when all these new freshmen come to the local colleges, we'll take them on a tour of the public art.
From the college to... Yeah.
Exactly. And one of the things that does for us is let college students know that we exist, potential future interns, but also get more people invested in the creation and the maintenance of public art.
Yeah. Now, okay, so for that, you want to do work with the colleges and everything in the fall. Will you try to raise special funds just for that, or what?
So the tour actually doesn't cost us any money, but what we want to do with the tour, and we want to keep it, it's actually a free tour, which is why so many people went. But what we want to do is actually use that tour to raise money because we are a nonprofit. So we're actually building a section of our website. So at the end of that tour, you can pull out your smartphone and make a $10 donation to commission new work.
I see.
So that if we have 1,000 people go on a tour and every person gives somewhere between 10, this comes directly out of the experience you were talking about, that list of 184 monthly givers. Is a brand new reality for us, because even though we're 11 years old, 99% of those people were actually recruited between April and right now.
So, in other words, talk about the fundraising side. You can't do anything unless you raise goddamn money. Right?
Exactly.
And no matter how good, I mean, don't you get pissed off because you know you're doing good work, you're helping the community, and you have to beg, borrow, and steal for money to do it?
It's funny. You would think that actually would be my position, but I kind of feel the opposite, because when I first created Words, Beats, and Life, I actually, like a lot of people, thought, well, there's tons of federal grants and grants out there. So all I did in our first year was apply for those $100,000 grants with no program, no track record, no experience, nothing but a degree in my experience in college. And the truth is, if I had gotten that money then, I actually don't know what Words, Beats, and Life would be today. But having to do that and fail, and then making our first real money that we generated, me going around to people I knew from college and asking them to give me $100 a person.
No
And so
kidding.
the first $12,000 we
So you
raised.
failed at everything you thought would work.
Exactly.
Right. And then that made you smart enough to go try something that
different.
will work.
Right. And the thing about that is that getting individuals to invest, and this is one of the luxuries of being a nonprofit, is that when individuals invested, they not only invested their time, then they also put sweat equity into the organization. So then we went back again, kind of leaning on that college experience and sought out contracts to be able to do some of the work that we were doing.
Contracts.
And then once we had
What do you mean,
contracts,
contracts?
so contracts to be able to present. So one of the things we do is we still do gallery shows, concerts,
Oh, I
workshops,
see. You take your artwork and stuff like that.
and people pay us to do that.
So you have a revenue stream.
Exactly.
Why don't you put up the list of funders too that I have there? I think it's number 9, Eric. So you found out how to get contracts before you started getting the big nonprofits too.
So first we got the individuals, then we got the contracts, then I went back to the foundations.
I see.
And then we began to get foundation money, and now it's foundations, government, individual.
Yeah, so
all
this
that
is
good
this
stuff.
list you have on your website. I mean, all kinds of people. The
Yeah.
government, big time foundations, and everything. But it's learning to crawl first. I mean, it's too hard to fight that system just out of college and not a track record.
And one of the blessings of that, right, is that when I first started Words Beats in Life, I had kind of one of those catch-all brochures, those 3-panel brochures that everyone has. And I went and met with 2 major funders here in the city, and I was like, I'd like for you to fund this work. It's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, it's not happening yet, but it's written here, and I have this experience in college. And actually, both of them told me, never show this to anyone again.
Wow.
And I said, why? And they said, how much money do you have? And I said, none. And they said, never show this to anyone again because no one's going to believe you can do it. And so one of the reason why I said that's a blessing is because then 7 years later, I was able to go back to both of those people and show them not only that we were doing everything that was in that brochure, but then some. And that actually led both of them to become larger investors in our work.
Wow.
People often want to invest in what they know works.
Yeah.
Or
Well,
what
they're
they've
playing
seen
with
work.
somebody else's money, so
Exactly.
they have to be more careful.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But I also still think, even with all that said, I think there's tons of opportunities for people to go about seeking grant funding, either as a nonprofit or even as individuals. There's fiscal sponsors. Funding your vision is pivotal. The question is, what's the first step? And usually people want to see that you have some skin in the game. So if you can convince the people that are in your immediate social network to invest in a thing, it becomes much easier to ask somebody else to invest.
Well, would
their
that
money.
be, I mean, like the crowdfunding thing that's out now.
Yeah.
So maybe you start with putting something on a crowdfunding
Exactly.
site, get $100 from, a couple dozen people, and now you have a little pot. You show you're able to do this, and then you go after this bigger money.
Getting a lot of people to give a little is a lot easier. It takes more work, but it's easier than convincing a few people to give a lot.
Yeah.
And it's also healthier for your business or your venture to have lots of sources. Because one of the reasons that we were motivated to create the individual giving campaign is because too much of our money was coming from too few people. So that if 2 or 3 people decided they don't want Words Beats in Life to exist
you're
anymore,
SOL, man.
we're gone. Whereas now there's a donor base.
Yeah.
There's 180 some odd people, and our goal is to actually double that in 2013.
Wow.
And then at the end of 2013, ask all of those people to recruit 2 people. So that
And you
what we
give
do is
them
get them
commission
invested.
or what?
Just a thank you. A thank you.
I'm sorry, my head's stuck in commerce here. You're serving the world. I'm
sure they'd
sorry.
like a commission though. We send them a T-shirt. Actually, that is
I
one of the things
see.
we do. We give them a
Really?
T-shirt that says $1 and a dream, and only people who are monthly donors get that. So we build
Right.
value in being a philanthropist,
Right, yeah.
and then they actually get free admission to all of our events. So they do get something out of it. It's just not a commission.
Right.
It's a thank you.
You know what's interesting to me is that I was looking at your site, and man, you do some great dance. I saw you break dancing too, a little bit of one of them. You still got the moves. But show the next video here. Now, this video, let me set it up a little bit. It looks like it's people from your current class, because people in school that learn break dancing and things like that. And then also I found a person who was a graduate of a few years ago. So we have a current student and a graduate break dancing from your site here. You got it? Ah, see, old guys like me can do this too, man.
That was actually an example of a contract where somebody was doing an event and they asked us to bring out some of our young people and some of our adults to perform. And that's actually one of the great things about hip hop is that we can create venues for young people and adults to perform together.
Wow.
Just like what I said when a master level teacher goes to a college campus, he takes an apprentice student with him. The same thing happens when we do a performance. All of the events we do are opportunities for the students who we're teaching to be able to also be a part of the presenting. Because that's about that.
So that is like a business section.
Mm-hmm.
So is that difficult in fitting into a nonprofit, or there's ways to do that?
No, it's actually really easy because the thing about revenue generation for a nonprofit is not that you can't generate revenue. It just has to be in line with your mission. And so if our mission is teaching, convening, and presenting, doing those events is part of teaching and it's also a part of presenting.
Well, that's what I believe about nonprofits, man. You should use capitalism, man. Have some stuff to sell,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's service or whatever, because that's how we give money away.
I would have on one of our T-shirts, except I was asked to wear business casual because we have hoodies and T-shirts and all
I got
kinds
a
of
copy
stuff.
of that. I don't know what business casual is. To me, everything is question marks. Yeah, that's Jeremy. I mean, he wants to up the level of. Now that was interesting, the business casual. But so what you're saying that 12 years ago, as a college kid, you had no idea how to start a nonprofit. The only thing in life you were interested in is hip hop. That got you in school because you wouldn't have gone anything if you couldn't do something with hip hop.
That's true.
And now after that, you graduate from college and you build a whole entire life around what was your dream as a 15-year-old.
I mean, what to be honest, what it was about was saying that experience that I had was kind of by chance.
Yeah.
And I wanted to create something that would intentionally create those experiences for young people. So most of the things that I had to wait to get to college, to get a budget, to be able to do, our students can now do while they're in high school or middle school or elementary school. So that ideally they should have that kind of spark that happened for me in college well in advance of that. So that means that they should, have bigger dreams and actually achieve bigger goals.
Yeah. So instead of waiting for you by accident at 18 to find something you're interested in and could learn more about and stretch your mind and your body and your heart and everything else, you're catching kids earlier to do that. To be able to do that in life. I mean, that's why it's just wonderful work you're doing.
Thank you.
What's next? You're just going to have 5,000 donors or what?
I mean, the donors is a part of it, but one of the things we're really interested in is helping organizations that are in other parts of the country be able to do this same kind of work.
Eric, I hear some. What's that? Oh, that's sorry. That's our guy.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
But no, so the event I talked about that happens at Howard, remixing the art of social change, a hip hop approach. Like one of the things I'm really interested in is sharing promising practices because I'm not interested in promising practices, good ways to do things. So what's the best way to run an internet radio show? What's the best way to start a nonprofit?
We're still figuring that out.
But there are people who you can point to who are experts in that field. So we invite them to come in and share how they did it. Just what you're doing with me.
Right.
But doing this specifically with people that do hip hop related things, whether that's scholars, whether that's artists, whether that's activists. How do you develop a citywide mural tour? Like we've done it now.
Yeah, right,
so we can share at least one example of what's been successful. So that the teaching that we host in Washington, D.C., we've also hosted in San Francisco and in Chicago. Right. And so I'm really interested not in expanding Words, Beats, and Life, but sharing what we've learned and bringing together the people who are doing things that we can learn from so that as a field, as a community, we can actually do work that impacts more people.
So the main project or what is like an after-school program?
Yeah, that's the largest part of what we do.
That's the largest.
It's called the Words, Beats, and Life Academy.
That's the Words, Beats, and Life. And I guess that's what you knew about, right? So that's an after-school program. And so all the dancing and the academy dancers and things like that, that's a spin-off to educate and do all these other things all around hip-hop. What is... Do you have a 60-second to tell me the philosophy of hip-hop? I mean, again, I'm naive or whatever, stupid or too suburban or whatever to understand, like, the basic philosophy, why it makes it important to your heart and soul.
I mean, I think that the answer to that question is going to be different with every person you ask. So, for example, the music you were playing at the very beginning of the show, that had a specific kind of feeling and aesthetic and message to it. But like for someone like me, hip hop really revolves around a set of principles: love, peace, unity, and having fun. Like these are actually principles that were codified by hip hop's founder, the founding DJ within hip hop. His name is Africa Bambaataa. He created an organization, hip hop's first organization, called the Zulu Nation, and those were the organizing principles: love, peace, unity, and having fun. Hip hop has a set of artistic elements: DJing, graffiti, breakdancing, and MCing that have evolved over time. But a lot of people boil all that down to hip hop is a kind of ingenuity, making something out of nothing. So whether that was kids in the South Bronx or throughout New York who had defunded arts programs, who decided to take art to the streets or take dance to the streets or take samples from their parents' records, so that it kind of depends on who you talk to. For me, hip hop is a transformational vehicle, whether that is through telling your story into a microphone, whether that is through expressing yourself on a wall or in a book. But there's also going to be people who are just detractors and say, well, it's also just drug dealing and spinning rims and da-da-da. But the problem is that it is that
about Catholicism too.
but like for me, I always go back to a quote by an artist named Andre 3000. He said, I met a critic and made her mess her drawers. She said she thought hip hop was only guns and alcohol. I said, oh, hell no. But yet it's that too.
Yeah.
You can't discriminate because you don't read a book or two. And so this idea that hip hop is the beautiful and it is the ugly. It is the the thing that feeds your soul and the thing that makes you sick. It is life. Like life isn't just beautiful. It actually is ugly. And so the fact that we're a part of an artistic community that doesn't just celebrate life's beauty but lifts up life's ugliness. That only becomes a problem when people who don't necessarily live in ugly conditions and circumstances replicate those in beautiful places. You understand what I'm saying?
I mean, I think what I hear when you say that is, there's good, bad, everything. Any group, anybody, like I said, the Catholic Church, which I grew up in, there's a lot of funky stuff going on there that nobody wants to talk about either, or shouldn't. And so, but the basic principles is how to live a more fruitful life, and I think that's what I hear about what you're talking about, the philosophy of hip hop. And this speaks to you because of your culture, whatever, to do that. The same way if I was a white Irish kid out in the suburbs, I'd hear the Catholic preach say stuff like that too, but in their language, and so, and that's why if you have a way to get through this shit better than me, I want to know about it.
One of the things that's really amazing though is like we're actually getting ready to do a screening of a film about hip hop in Mongolia. Hip hop is
hip hop in Mongolia.
And what they interviewed a community elder who said, like when he looked at hip hop, he said, I don't know why they say it came from America. It had to have come from Mongolia.
Wow. See,
which is but it's kind of crazy. But the point is that he's saying that we identify with
biased.
it. Yeah. But he's saying that we identify with it. And that's one of the things that to me is most beautiful. So like, for example, my organization annually goes to Kampala, Uganda, which is the capital city of Uganda, and we do master level classes in b-boying and MCing with folks who are part of hip hop organizations there, who are and throughout the continent, who are working to not just replicate what's happening in America, but to tell their own story. Because I think what people identify with is freedom of expression. We're actually getting ready to publish an article in our journal about a graffiti writer who was jailed in Burma. For doing graffiti, because it's a form of expression that the state doesn't sanction. And I think that that's truly what the power is. It is the freedom to say and show and express how you feel. That's what people identify with.
See, to me, I just came down from...
It's like your shirt. It's like your jacket with the question mark. It's that ability to just be who you are.
This is me inside.
Yeah.
The Ai Weiwei exhibit, the Chinese dissident artist that's down. You fighting the same thing, so it's all wonderful. Do you have time to hang around for a while?
Sure.
Do we have any calls yet? Or we got them?